Thanks, Tim. Thanks, everyone, for joining the presentation and Share Cafe. Next slide, please. Disclaimer, forward-looking statements. I've got one slide, and it was great listening to Cameron from Benchmark on his analysis on his pricing. I think it's pretty well known that between 25 and 30, there's going to be a tremendous deficit of lithium mineral. And these are some of the benchmark slides here, actually. And the interesting thing, Benchmark and Albemarle have put 3.7 million tonne deficit of LCE and Benchmark around 2.9 at 2030. So that means one thing, it's a standard supply-demand curve, which is less supply, more demand, the price is going up. China can play around with prices as much as they like on that spot market, but you cannot stop a runaway train. So look, we're really confident that those prices are going to be significantly higher from 25 to 30. Therefore, we need to be in production around that time frame. Thank you. Next slide. So Latin Resources, this is our 15th year been operating now in South America. We're very, very experienced in South America, in particular in Peru, Argentina, and now Brazil. We started off the company with copper projects in Peru. We then moved, when I saw the guys in the Pilbara operating and building these great lithium projects with lithium spodumene pegmatites, we started looking out throughout South America for pegmatites. We found a group in Argentina. And then in 2019, we found a group around a company called Sigma Lithium in Minas Gerais. Next slide, please. So we are operating in a state of Brazil called Minas Gerais. It's the WA of Brazil. It's the best mining jurisdiction in Brazil, if not South America. Belo Horizonte is the Perth. It's got of Minas Gerais. It's got probably twice as many mining consultants as Perth has, and that's saying something. So we're very fortunate to be able to work in a place that has over 300 operating mines. It's Brazil's third largest economy, produces 9.3% of the Brazil's GDP. Low cost energy. When I say low cost energy, our plant will be backed by hydroelectricity, around 2 to 3 cents a kilowatt hour. Sigma is operating now at 2 cents a kilowatt hour. So tremendous infrastructure, and I'll go on that a bit later. Operators, BHP, Rio Tinto have been there for 30 years, Anglo, and of course Sigma. Next slide, please. I want to bring the audience attention to this company, Sigma, who've done an incredible job building a project. They announced their first resource in 2019, which was about 20 odd million tonne, actually 13 and built to about 20 million tonne. And then from there, pushed their tonnage to 52. They're now at about 106. But more importantly, started construction of this plant, had their environmental permits approved at the end of around November 2021. So in other words, a little over 2 years, they had their environmental permits approved. They started construction in February last year. They completed construction in February this year, commissioned for 3 months, and they shipped their first product in May, and that was around $60 million in revenue. And that was 70% of 5.5% spodumene, and 30% of their DSOs going straight out the door as well. Tremendous company. We spent a bit of time there, our guys on site. We're 65 kilometres north of Sigma, and we've got a very strong collaboration. I talk to Anna, the CEO, every couple of weeks. Our guys are down on site watching. We were actually down there watching the commissioning. So, what a tremendous story that is. They've got a market cap of US $4 billion. And great shareholders in BlackRock, Synergy and Invesco. Thank you. Next slide. So our plan is to emulate what Sigma have done over the next couple of years. We announced our first JORC resource in December of last year, 13.3 million tonne. We then started drilling to the west, and we now have 8 rigs on site, and we're drilling 65,000 metres. And basically our philosophy, our strategy over the next 12 months is to build the resource as big as we can, as quickly as we can. And we think by the end of this year, our resource upgrade, next slide, please. Our resource upgrade will be out this month. So that will incorporate what we call Kalina West. So Kalina, you can see there on the coloured on the top right-hand side. Kalina is the pinkish area which we're drilling, and look at some of those intercepts: 20 metres at 1.6, 26 at 1.62, 18 at 1.9. The grade on this project is exceptional compared to here in WA. This is now a strike length of 2 kilometres by 1 kilometre, and it's just proving up to be exceptional deposit. Next slide, please. That also gives you just a cross-section there of some of these intercepts. We're getting one intercept at hole 77 there was 30 metres wide. One of the geos put this building in there to give you an idea of the size of these intercepts, and continually grows to the west. So just the next slide, please. So if you can actually take a look at this, I don't know whether you can see that pointer up there, but we believe we're going to have this structure, this pegmatite swarm open further to the west. We will poke some holes down here. We've actually completed our drilling for the resource upgrade, and that we're at about 135 holes, 38,000 metres. Those numbers have gone into SGS Lakefield. Every consultant that worked on the Sigma plant's now working on ours, which includes the environmental, SGS Lakefield, do all our assaying, mineral resource estimate. They're doing our PEA. That information's gone up the SGS. We will announce our resource upgrade this month. So that's exciting news for us, but more exciting is that this structure, these pegmatites continue to grow out to the west. Remember that Sigma started off with 13 to 52 to now 100. And so we're really in a position of building this resource, as I said earlier, as quickly as we can, as big as we can. Thank you. Next slide. One of the other unique aspects of this project, which everyone really talks about, is this is our third stage test work we've run on our material, 80% recovery, concentrated 6.6, up to 7%. Now this has all been done with HLS work, so heavy liquid separation at lab scale. We've now sent a couple of tonnes of material, representative material, into SGS Lakefield in Canada to start the full pilot plant test work, and that will continue to grow into our PEA, which we want to announce in August. So this is very coarse grade spodumene, very little iron, very low impurities. So we're excited about the recovery rates on this particular on our deposit, on our grade as well. So next slide, please. Just to touch again on the state of Minas Gerais, hydro back grid, as I said earlier, 2 to 3 cents a kilowatt hour. Nowhere else in the world are you going to get power costs of that. What's it all mean? It's going to lower our costs. And this will be a full DMS plant. There'll be no flotation, dry stack tailings, recirculated water. This will be a very green EGS design plant with hydroelectricity. It's just fantastic. The port of Ilhas, where Sigma are actually shipping out their material at the moment, is the largest bulk port in Brazil. It's about 380 k's from our project. Water, we've got plenty of water on site. 2 massive dams that we've got access to, dry stack tailings. The roads there, they'll be trucked. There'll be dual highways from 12 kilometres from our site. There's dual highways all the way through the port. So incredibly good infrastructure. Next slide, please. And of course, you can have a great project, but if you don't have the local community, the province behind you, the project will never happen, in particular in South America. And this project for me has been a breath of fresh air. We've got the ministerised government. We had over there about 8 weeks ago in Perth. We signed an MOU. We developed a timeline and a budget for the ministerised state investment committee. We now have a fast track approval. We are the #1 priority project for ministerised to get into development, and the governor signed off on that, which is really powerful for us. The local community, Salinas, we employ about 160 people on site. As I said earlier, we've got about 8 rigs on site. 60 of those people are local people. So the community love what we're doing. They want this project to happen. So once again, a massive tick in the box. Incidentally, that's the hydropower facility, which is about 80 k's from where we are. Next slide. So our timeline now, as I mentioned earlier, resource upgrades coming out in June. That'll build into our PEA, which SGS are doing. We'll have that issued the 3rd quarter, probably around August. We'll be comfortable with putting out August. Test work continually. Our DFS is, some of that work has started, and that'll push through to June next year. Our environmental permitting started November last year. Some of that information will start flowing into the mining agency September of this year, and we'll complete that by June. Offtake negotiations have started, but the company has made a decision not to sign any offtake agreement until the PEA is completed. So no royalties, no offtakes. We want to be totally unencumbered until that PEA is out. Final investment decision and approvals we expect to land on our desk at the end of December of 24 and start construction 25, and we want to be in production by 26. So tight program, but just look at Sigma. They've done it. Every consultant that's worked on Sigma's working on our own project. So we're picking up a template here and dropping it into Salinas. So we're very excited that we can meet that timeline and certainly that budget. Just a reminder that first stage of Sigma's project, which is 270,000 tonnes spodumene concentrate per year, was $130 million. Their second phase, which will take them to over 700,000 tonnes, the same size as Pilbara Minerals project, is another 150. It's exceptionally cost effective to build and operate plants here in Brazil, especially ministerised. Thank you. Next slide. So the news coming out, drilling will continue, assays will continue, significant JORC upgrade this month. We're very confident it's going to be moved from 13 to 20 million tonnes to a lot larger. Salinas PEA will be completed in the third quarter of this year. DFS, as I mentioned earlier, financial decision at the end of 24. Thank you. We see a lot of people ask the question, where are you going to sell this material? And I think we've learned that the US building that infrastructure, there's a lot of gigafactories, lithium hydroxide plants now being built in the US. So we see that as where our natural market is. Thank you. Next slide. Board, a lot of people know the board. Dave Valensky, our chairman, myself, Brent Jones, Sequoia fund manager, Pablo, who represents our largest shareholder, Sarah Company. But more importantly, Pete Oliver has just joined the board 6 months ago. Peter's been an exceptional guy to get on side. He ran the largest, we actually started working for Greenbushes and turned that from a tin tantalum mine into the world's largest, most profitable lithium mine. So it's been tremendous bonus for us having Peter on board. It's because how do you move from the explorer to developer to producer? It's having people like Peter Oliver on the board and helping us on that journey. Next slide. Just a snapshot of where we're sitting now. Just over 450 million market cap. We've got $50 million in the bank. We've got some great funds that have come on board. Integra, a private equity group out of Argentina, Waratah. Ernie Ortiz has was an early investor, our second largest shareholder. And just of recent times, a month ago, we've had JGP and BTG, institutional investors out of Brazil. BTG is Brazil's and Latin America's largest investment bank. They were very big investors in Sigma, and they're now joined Lat Resources as major shareholders. I think that's about it.
Thanks,
Next
Chris.
slide. Thank you.
We'll let you finish there on there. It looks like a footy team there. Looks like a footy team photo.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time. So in today's presentation, we've kind of touched on the European option, funding options for companies, and also in the US with the IRA. Where does kind of Brazil and South America fit for potential funding?
We doubt whether we can use the IRA. Brazil has got 270 million people. It's by far the largest country in Brazil, in South America. Fiat, Renault, Ford, GM, BYD all manufacture cars in Brazil. We think there's a natural electrification ecosystem within Brazil itself. We are focused at the moment, we're talking with off-takers mainly in North America. Albemarle recently announced they're building a lithium hydroxide plant in South Carolina, 100,000 tonne LCE capacity. They have some material coming out of Kings Mountain for that, but they'll need more. So that's the sort of area we're looking for. How do we fund it? I don't think there's going to be any issue with funding a $200 million plant. I think there'll be a bit of debt, and we're talking a few people around that line at the moment, but that's 12 months away for us. Bit of equity, and I think once we secure an offtake agreement, that'll provide some significant funding for our plant as well.
And obviously, Sigma Lithium has paved the way, and you've spoken about that as the template, and you're using kind of their people and their expertise. What have been some of the other key learnings in terms of kind of maybe your infrastructure and process? You touched on water and power sources. Can you give us a little bit more colour on the key learnings you've got from Sigma?
Yeah, sure. Look, they've scaled their project from 270 to 500 to 750. I think that's something importantly that we should be looking at. It's going to depend on the size of the resource or dictate the size of the plant. We think there's no reason why we can't be the similar size as Sigma, but the drill bit will tell us there. I think that one thing we have learned is that dry stack tailings important. Tailings dams are a sensitive issue in Brazil, so they've developed a dry stack tailings dam technique, which we'll be following as well, which is world class, and it's not a world first, but it hasn't been used that often before. So that's another. We want to build this around green tech, as Anna calls it, ESG. Hydroelectricity, renewable energy, providing power to our plant, dry stack tailings, recirculated wealth. They're the sort of things that this will be a green tech plant, which will attract a lot of customers from that carbon footprint perspective.
And from that Sigma learnings, we noticed during the week you've got a small position in Solus, who have just acquired the Jaguar lithium project in Brazil. Are you trying to offer them the same sort of learnings that you've had from Sigma?
Yeah, so look, we spun out those assets, the copper assets, a couple of years ago, and that project is in the northeast of Brazil. So we've got all the intellectual property, the expertise that we'll pass on to Solus to help develop that project. Matt Boyes is a very experienced executive. He ran Red Dirt, which is now Delta, for 2 years and built that resource. He's also had a lot of South American experience. He ran a project in Argentina for about 7 years, so he has that South American experience as well. So look, it's our sister company with the largest shareholder. So that's very exciting as well, to be able to assist them, help them develop and grow that business.
Bruce, that's all we have time for. Really appreciate your time this Friday, and we'll follow you up later in the year.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for organising, Emily. It's been fantastic. Thanks to Share Cafe. Thank you.